Okay, welcome to Friday. We started measurement unit. I am going to go a little bit on today, and I think I'll give you maybe next week to do some work. Because I'd like to finish up the examples for assignment 1, so you can kind of get through the rest of assignment 1 over the weekend, perhaps. So if you didn't take a look at the video or look at the example, I did up to example 3 on page 7. And I am going to continue on and finish up the rest of the examples because there's a lot of them. Now, once again, as I stated at the beginning of this unit, it's nice that we don't need a special calculator. You don't need a graphing calculator. You can just use your regular scientific calculator. So that's very nice. It makes our job a little easier, right? If you have any questions, I can see someone's watching. I'm just going to say hi. Wouldn't it be nice to know who's online? So on page 8, I'm going to start talking about conversions, which we did yesterday, right? We did conversions using the cross-multiply method and then the quick way. But these are conversions with non-standard factors. What does that mean? Okay, that usually means it's going to be tough, but hopefully I'll make it not so tough. Sometimes a question will give you a conversion factor that's non-standard. Okay, these conversion factors are always part of the question. So they're not really part of a resource sheet, right? Although we don't have to worry so much about that for this particular semester because we're not having exams, but non-standard conversion factors can also be written in a sentence and not in the normal form. So what do we mean by this? Let's take a look at the first example. The conversion factor could be different from person to person, like a rate of pay, for example. So that's why it can't really occur on a formula sheet because there could be different rates of pay for different people. So the sentence, Eric earns $13.50 per hour is a non-standard conversion. Even though the rate could be different for other people, you can still calculate using the proportion or the shortcut. So I'm going to stick to the proportion method. To be honest, I'm going to stick with one method. I find that it works and it's easy for students to understand and it's kind of foolproof. The shortcut method requires a real kind of innate sense of numeracy, which everyone has, but we haven't really had the opportunity to develop that a lot this semester due to the school closures. So I'm going to stick with the method that I know will work for everyone, and I'm just going to do the cross-multiply method. So what happens is we've got, this is a guided example, so it's all nicely done for you. Calculate Eric's pay if he works for 32.5 hours this week. Now, we knew that Eric makes $13.50 per hour. The giveaway word in these conversions is the word per. That word per means that these two, the term right before it and the term after it, so on both sides of the word per, the per is setting you up to put these two words into a fraction. Okay. So $13 per hour, literally that means just going to write this down here, $13.50. I can write the word per like this. So that clearly shows you, well, this is just the fraction, right? Now I would have flipped these two around, but that means I can write it as $13.50 over. Now the word per hour, how many hours is this? Well, 1, right? Per hour means 1 hour. We don't typically put the per 1 hour in. It's understood that the word hour means 1. So $13.50 for 1 hour. So that's your conversion factor, right? So you first have to determine the conversion factor, which I did here. I'm going to do this approach. They flipped it around on me. They put the hours on top. I think I would put the hours on the bottom. So I'll just finish doing mine here. So then I have Calculate his pay if he works for 32.5 hours. My hours would go on the bottom. You can see it doesn't really matter where you put them as long as you're consistent. My X on the top, just like we did yesterday. I'm multiplying the two numbers, the two diagonal numbers, and divide by the leftover. So I have the same thing as down here, right? 13.50 times 32.5 divided by 1. And that's going to give me $439.68. Now, if you looked at this question and you read, and you said, well, I just have to multiply these two together, great. That means you have a really nicely developed sense of numbers and how things work. You could have just proceeded to the shortcut. So that's great. But quite honestly, if you could just proceed to the shortcut and you don't need a special method, then you're one of those people that doesn't need the special method. I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the examples for the people that do need something to fall back on, right? A foolproof method. Okay. Let's try example 5. It's another guided one, meaning the answers are given to you. Calculate the cost to rent a room for a birthday party for 30 minutes. The rental rate is $100 per 90 minutes. Okay, this time they did it in the right order. Someone kind of goofed on this one. So when I see this word per, remember that word, it means 110. Per can be translated into the division symbol. Okay, so there's my first conversion factor. 110 per 90. What do I want? I want for 300 minutes. So I have my minutes on the bottom. So my X is on the top. I multiply the two diagonal numbers and divide by the leftover. So there's my answer. Now it says, since the rate does not have a 1 in it, the shortcut method doesn't work. In this case, you must use the proportion method, which is another reason why I just prefer sticking to the proportion method, because it's foolproof, like I said. Whoops, sorry about that. It's foolproof and it always works. Okay, so hopefully that alleviates, it sounded so fancy at the beginning and difficult and technical when we started, but it's really not hard. In these questions, they always have to give you, because they're rate questions, that word per almost always appears, right? So you just have to look for the word per hour, okay? That, as long as I have that, I can easily set up my first conversion. And once you have your first conversion ratio set up, it's a piece of cake. Okay, so 80 kilometers per hour. That means 80 kilometers / 1 hour. All right, how far will you travel in 6 hours? Okay, they gave me hours, so 6 hours. The hours go on the bottom. And that means I'm solving for the top. So once again, I multiply my diagonal numbers, divide by the leftover number to figure out what X is. Okay, that's my answer. This is a word problem though, so I have to answer in words. You travel 480. Now remember, you have to use the units. This was kilometers, right? So 480 kilometers in 6 hours. Okay, exactly similar. It's a little harder to set up, but as long as you know that keyword, right? That's your cue. At the rate of 80 kilometers per hour, how long will it take to travel 20 kilometers? Okay, so it's still the same rate that we start with, 80 kilometers per 1 hour. All right, how long will it take to travel 20 kilometers? Okay, this time they gave me kilometers. So the 20 goes in the numerator, the top of the fraction. My X is on the bottom. All right, so I multiply my diagonal numbers and I divide by the leftover. All right, what do we get here? I think I know, but I'm not going to just trust myself. So I get 0.25. And remember, this was hours on the bottom. It takes 0.25 hours, a quarter of an hour, to travel 20 kilometers. Okay, next question. Example 7. Kiki earned $258.75 for 15 hours of work. How much will she earn for 40 hours of work? Okay. Now, I don't see that word per, but let's see. Kiki earned $258.75. I could easily, this means per, right? If I put the word per in, it would mean the same thing. $258.75 per 15 hours of work, right? That fits. So 4 per. This is my first ratio, right? These two numbers go together. If they go together, if 258.75 is the monetary amount for 15 hours of work, that means they're a fraction, right? This is your first conversion factor. So $258 partners with 15 hours of work. Okay, that makes sense. Now, how much money for 40 hours? Okay, I'm looking for the amount of money that partners with 40 hours. So there you go. Multiply my two diagonal numbers, divide by the leftover. Okay, there's a lot of, these numbers are a little more complex than some of them. 258.75 times 40 divided by 15, we get 690. So she earns, don't forget the units are dollars, $690 for 40 hours of work. Okay. All right, determine her hourly rate of pay. Well, that's a little tricky, right? Those words are tricky. Hourly, what does hourly mean? Well, the rate of pay, this means the rate of pay for 1 hour, right? That's hourly. Okay, so what did we start with again? Our first conversion was 258.75 for 15 hours. Okay, so what am I looking for? I'm looking for how much for 1 hour. So I multiply and I divide. 258.75 times 1 divided by 15. Let's see what we get here. I get 17.25. And that was my hourly rate, right? That's how much they get paid per hour. So Kiki gets paid $17.25. And I can write it like this, right? Per hour. So hopefully this is becoming really kind of a little more familiar with every question that we do, and a little easier to look for how to convert the words into math formulas and math procedures. I can plant 12 seedlings in 20 minutes. How many hours will it take to plant 4.5 dozen seedlings? Okay, let's set the first thing up. This is another, right? 12 seedlings per 20 minutes. It means the same thing, right? 12 seedlings per 20 minutes. Wherever you can substitute the per in, well, that gives you where your division symbol is. So 12 seedlings, I'm just going to put seeds down, in 20 minutes. How many hours will it take to plant 4.5 dozen seedlings? Okay, well, first of all, what's 4.5 dozen? 4.5 times 12, right? 4.5 times 12. Let's see what that is first. 54. 54 seedlings. Seedlings are just seeds, right? Or baby plants that grew from seeds. Okay, so I have 54 seeds and I'm solving for X. I have to be careful here though. The way my ratio is set up, this will be minutes, right? But that's okay. Even though they asked me in hours, that's all right. I can convert my minutes to hours first. I just need to get the time. Once I get the time, I'm good and we can convert to hours easily. So as always, going to do a multiply, divide by the leftover number. So X equals 20 times 54 divided by 12. And I get 90. Okay, 90 minutes. Well, I know 90 minutes equals an hour and a half. I just know that from just common knowledge, but let's convert that to hours, right? We did a conversion with minutes before, minutes and hours yesterday. So what do I know? I know that 60 minutes per hour, right? Or there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. So therefore, I want to convert 90 minutes to X hours. Same thing, multiply, divide. So I have 90 times 1 divided by 60, and I get 1.5 hours. Now, if you already knew that just from common knowledge, you don't necessarily have to go through, like 90 minutes is an easy one. Or if the answer was 120 minutes, for example, I know 120 minutes is 2 hours. I could just answer 2 hours. But I'm just showing those people who may be a little unfamiliar with time. I can just do another conversion, right? So there's my answer. So I'll just respond. It will take 1.5 hours to plant 54 seedlings. Okay. Hi, Tim. Nice to see you, or see your name up there. All right, that's it for today. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign you, and I know that. Well, actually, sorry. No, I guess I can keep going, right? There's two more examples. I thought we were done. Let's finish these examples up. And then I can assign you for the weekend and for Monday. I think Monday's class will be a work class. You can work on assignment 1. So let's keep going. Example 9. Michael must order a snack for an office meeting of 75 people. He estimates he'll need 1.5 tarts per person. Tarts come in boxes of 12. How many boxes should he buy? All right, let's see. So he needs 1.5 tarts per person. All right, that's the conversion factor I have to use. Okay, so let's have to start. He's got 75 people. How many tarts do I need? All right, this should be easy. Multiply the diagonal numbers, divide by the leftover. So he needs X equals 1.5 times 75 divided by 1. 112.5 tarts. That's pretty funny, right? All right. Now the problem is they come in boxes of 12. So it says, hint, sometimes we must round our answers up to a whole number in order for the answer to be reasonable. That is true. No, Tim, your class is at 12 o'clock. Your class is 12 to 1. So pop on an hour earlier on Monday. This is my second class. So hopefully I'll see you Monday, okay, Tim? Monday at noon. All right, well, let's see what happens because I'm not quite done yet, right? It says boxes of 12. So let's see, how many boxes should he buy? This is another two-part question, right? We've got the answer here. So let's see. One box, they're asking me for boxes. So one box contains 12 tarts. I need 112.5 tarts, which I know I can't buy a half of a tart, but we'll see how many boxes. Okay, bye. Have a nice weekend too, Tim. Multiply, divide. So I get 1 times 112.5 divided by 12. And we get 9.375 boxes. All right. This is not a possible answer. I can't go to the pastry store and request 9.375 boxes. So Michael needs to buy. In this case, I must round up. Okay, even though it says it's only a 0.3, in order to have enough tarts for everyone, you have to use common sense here. He's got to buy 12 boxes or 10 boxes. Okay. So again, we had a two-part. You have to solve for whatever you're given. You were given tarts and people, so you had to solve for tarts first. There's no way around it, but you can easily convert the tarts to the boxes, right? Okay, let's keep going. And chime in if you have any questions on the live chat, if you're able to live chat. If not, you can always email me, right, with questions. I'd really like to hear from some of you. I keep saying that. All right, last example. Daria owns her own painting company. She knows that it takes 3 cans of paint to paint a normal size room. Her current contract requires her to paint 7 normal size rooms. How many cans of paint will she be required to paint the 7 rooms? Okay, even though this could be done ratio, I think this is so straightforward, right? 3 cans per room and 3 cans per room. I could set it up ratio, but I'm pretty sure 3 cans, 7 rooms each. I'm sure everyone's okay with doing the shortcut weight here, right? So 21 cans needed. All right. If paint costs $41.99 a can, calculate the total cost of the paint after taxes. All right. So 21 cans times $41.99. So again, I know I said I wasn't going to do the shortcut way, but I did that way because I think that's a really easy example to understand shortcut. And then, unless otherwise, use the current Manitoba PST GST. So 7 and 5, and that's what's currently. So it's 12%. All right, so how I calculate that is I can take my number, and what I have to do is I have to multiply. If I multiply it just by the 0.12, that's 0.12, right? That just gives me the tax. I don't want just the tax. I want the whole amount plus the tax added on. So to get the whole amount again, I have to multiply by 1. That gives me the 21 times $41.99. And then the 0.112 is the tax. Okay, so that's the quick way to do tax. 1.12 for both taxes. And paint is definitely something that has both taxes on it. So we get a grand total of $987.60. Okay, that's the cost of the paint. Okay, Daria can paint very quickly. She can paint a normal size room in 45 minutes. Determine the number of hours she requires to paint all 7 rooms. Okay, there's a lot going on here, so I'm going to go back to my proportion method. She can paint a normal sized room in 45 minutes. So this is my statement, right? One room per 45 minutes. Or 45 minutes per room. So I have one room, 45 minutes. Okay, so I have to use that. Even though they're asking for hours again, that's something I have to deal with later. I know I can easily convert minutes to hours. So first of all, I'm just going to figure out how many minutes it's going to take, because that's what they gave me to start with. So x equals 45 times 7 divided by 1. So I get 315 minutes. Remember, this is rooms, top is rooms, bottom is minutes. Okay, so 315 minutes, just like I did before, 60 minutes per 1 hour, and 315 minutes per how many hours? Well, that's what we're going to solve for. Multiply, divide. $5.25. So it will take 5.25 hours, 5.25 hours to paint 7 rooms. Okay, so that's the end of these examples. There's a lot of them, right? But we wanted to give you lots of exposure. These are the types of questions you'll see in the grade 12 course. Actually, even a little more complex though, maybe with more parts to them. So let's end it there for today. Remember, chime in and ask me any questions if you have any during class. That's a helpful thing. I'm going to sign assignment 1, see if you can get the whole thing done. It's only 1 page, but there's, quite a bit going on here. Do what you can. I will give you some work time on Monday, and I'll also go through some of these questions on Monday too during class. Okay, so have a nice weekend, and I hope to talk to some of you soon.